Leeroy, how's it going?
I'm all right. How are you?
Very good. Sorry about that, man. Yeah, always happens when you don't want it with the laptop.
Yeah, the infamous reboot. It got the best of us at times, I think.
Yeah, and then also if I was like had the charger plugged in, and it was like saying the battery was low as well. I was like, what's going on here? And then I have one of these like there's a switch on the adapter, and then I had that switch on. I was like, what's going on? And then I looked at the wall, and the switch was off. So I was like, just panicking, man.
It's always the most basics, usually.
Oh yeah, and I look
Yeah.
like a super genius then.
Look, we've all been there. Don't worry about it. So yeah, thank you for coming
Thank,
on. I appreciate.
yeah, thanks for the invite.
No,
I
definitely.
made it. I made a thing of getting on more podcasts this year. So as soon as you messaged, I was like, I'm in.
Yeah, good, good. So this will be initially going out on LinkedIn, and then it'll be going out through like YouTube and Spotify and things like that. So
Hmm?
introduce yourself first and tell us what it is you do.
Before is this live now? Like, do we
Yes,
start
yeah, yeah.
or how does it?
No, no,
Okay,
no, no. It's recording. It's fine. It's good.
okay, great.
Yeah.
So I'm Colin Gallagher. I have a run a ghostwriting business called Growlancer, where I help CEOs to get B2B customers on LinkedIn, and also
Mm.
in the last few months, I've created a community to help small business owners do the same. So
Yeah.
same mission, same goal for both, just kind of help different people at different stages of their journey. Um, I'm a former, I'm actually a civil engineer who was doing that for a few years and didn't really like it. So I
Right.
made the transition towards marketing. I realized they were surprisingly similar because marketing can get very like on the surface it seems just like look to go viral, but there's
Yeah.
quite a lot of formulaicness to it.
Right.
So
So what exactly were you doing previously then?
civil engineer, we're like civil site engineer. So when we were building a basement, I'd go out and mark on the site where to put
Right.
the concrete and stuff like that. Like, so completely different. I did that in university, worked in London for 3 years doing
Right.
that. Um,
So
it's
where
not
so where
very fun standing
where did the
outside in the
transition
cold.
come from then?
I was just doing it until 20, I did it from 2014 until 2017. And I was I was thinking how I can't do this for 40 years. Like, I just didn't
Yeah.
enjoy it. Um, I wasn't getting any, like, I suppose, fulfillment out of it. And,
Yeah.
there wasn't any creativity. It was just very much, go do that and work 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. a lot of the time, which I have no problem with. But if you're not getting something enjoyment out of it, then
Mm.
it's not sustainable. I was just putting on weight and things like that, so I knew that was kind of a marker.
Yeah.
So that was a trigger point for me, is in like I knew I needed to make a change, but it took, I suppose, 4 or 5 years to figure out something that I was kind of good at after that change. So
Yeah.
um,
There's that transition period where like you say, you do notice something's not right, and then you kind of stuck in that routine a little bit for a while, and then you spend quite some time kind of exploring many different avenues, I guess, don't you?
yeah, like I'm not, I wouldn't advise taking the route that I did to everyone, because it just couldn't suit everyone. I was in a kind of a I was in a bit of a privileged position where I could do that. So basically, I saved up a year's worth of money and then went cold turkey. I just quit the
Yeah.
job and went traveling. Um, that wouldn't be, again, I wouldn't advise everyone to do that, because it was a hard stop for me, but I was able to kind of set myself up to be able to do that. And that
Yeah.
just gave me the mental space to think more about what I actually wanted to do. Because before that, I think I wrote about this in like when I started writing online. It was like I just kept doing the thing that I was supposed to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was just following the easiest path. I was like, I was good at maths when I was young, so yeah, okay, I'll go university and do engineering. Then I was like, got a job as an engineer, offered one within before I actually graduated. So I was like, yeah, I'll take that. Okay, was paid well, so I was like, okay, I'll live in London, go out all the time.
Mm.
But then after a while, you end up realizing you're kind of going down the path that you didn't foresee or want to be
Yeah.
on. Um, and then changing took a bit of time to get to the point where I could do that.
Yeah.
Um, But I think a lot of people fall into that where they just do the easy thing, which makes a lot of sense when you're younger as well. You just want to go along and
Mm.
enjoy yourself, like not take things too serious. But for me, it came a point where I was like, I need to make a change here because I'm okay now, but if I'm doing this when I'm 40, I'm not going to be in a
Yeah.
good shape, in physically in good
Yeah.
shape or mentally in good shape.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's that's the commendable thing because many people hit that point, but they don't kind of make that change. They kind of carry on doing that, and then they spend 40 years of just being, I guess, miserable with themselves. I guess.
I think I was able to like because I had the engineering to fall back on. I'd
Mhm.
always thought that worst case scenario, I can just go back and be an engineer again.
Yeah.
And that was the
Yeah.
worst case scenario, and that's a good case scenario for
Mm.
in a lot of situations. So
Yeah.
I knew that that was there. So I tried to give myself the opportunity to go and explore other things as well,
Yeah.
knowing that if something happened, within reason, obviously, within reason, that I could always go back to London and get that paying job
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
But I really, really, really did not want to do that. So I just made sure that eventually I kept going and figured it out. And
Yeah.
luckily,
So,
I figured it out to some degree anyway.
yeah. So how did because not only have you gone, how did you end up in marketing, and then not only marketing, you've encompassed the AI side of it. How what got you to that point and why?
Oh, just massive trial and error. There's no
Yeah.
why actually.
Yeah.
Um, I started out when we went traveling in 2017. We ended up going to Australia
Mm.
at the end of that for a year,
Yeah.
and during when we were traveling, I had lots of schemes and ideas on what I was going to do. I got into crypto trading,
Yeah.
um, as was the thing at the time because I think that was like the second boom of Bitcoin, so that was all the
Yeah.
rage. And obviously, it seemed like a hot topic to get into, so did a bit of that. Spent maybe 6 to 8 months doing that. Lost a good chunk of money. um, realized that I don't have a suitable um, my mental. I'm not. I wouldn't make a good trader in terms of the way I
Yeah.
think. I'm a bit too impulsive, and to
Yeah.
be a trader, you need to be very like consistent and be
Yeah.
like, not let your ideas get away with you.
Yeah.
So did that, then moved to forex trading, which was I thought would be better, but it is kind of similar. Again, for the
Mm.
same reasons, I wasn't able to do that. But in that company, I worked with on like kind of an apprenticeship, I suppose, with a trader guy in Australia.
Mm.
His name was Richard. He's a really nice fella. Then in that company met another person who I started another business with, where we uh, basically tried to kit out containers, and instead of getting an extension on your house, you drop in a
Yeah.
container and link it up to the house. So that sounds like a good idea. Um, it's just logistically, like everyone was like, yeah, yeah, great, and there was lots of interest and all that
Yeah.
type of stuff. But logistically, it was just we just weren't
A
able to do
nightmare.
it. Yeah, you just couldn't do it, like because we were. I was telling my friend there, and then I was so green, like I didn't have a clue what I was doing. So I was like, I was chatting to my friend there on the weekend, and I was telling him about how you have I'm sure you've experienced as well, you have the like over exuberance at the very start because you don't know how you're obviously really excited, but you don't
Yeah.
know how excited you should be. So I remember we started that. We started running ads because the other guy was good at running ads. Um, and ran ads, we're getting lots of leads. I remember chatting to someone on like the first day, and we were selling these for like $40,000 each. And I had never done a sales call in my life. And the third call, this lady was like, yeah, I need three of them. I was like, whoa. And I was like, okay, and when do you need them? She was like, well, in 6 weeks we're changing seasons or whatever, and we're doing a bit of work here. So ideally we get them delivered on whatever it was, November. I was like, okay, grand.
Shit.
And then yeah, I was like, oh yeah. And she was like, okay, come down next week. This is like a 3 hour drive away in Melbourne.
Yeah.
Come down next week and we'll sign the contracts and we'll get it done. I was like, sure, let's do it.
Just about
Came
take
up
them back.
Oh, I didn't know what. And like, I hung up the phone then, and I was like, talk to Greg, who was the other guy doing it. I was like, man, I'm after selling $120,000 here. And we both went on a mad pint session after that, and woke up the next morning and like you won, rang the lady back, and sure she was just doing something. She was like, yeah, but at the
Yeah,
time, it never materialized into anything. I drove the 3 hours, and she could obviously then tell that I didn't have a clue what I was talking about, really,
yeah,
and didn't pay us the 120 grand. So, that was a kind of a funny early lesson for me. That business didn't go well, just for many logistical reasons, really. We started another business that helped people, connected builders with connected home builders with the builders who would build the houses for them. So like
yeah,
luxury houses, building broker, a construction broker. Again, another good idea, but we weren't able to make it work.
yeah,
Um, and that was a huge learning phase for me. It was like, it's just, you need more than the business model. You need the people doing it, and you need the right direction, and you need all these types
yeah.
of things. And so that period that I just described there ended up taking about 4 years. So to
Mm.
the failure of that second, the construction broker. Um, and then I had visa issues in Australia as well, because uh, they don't entrepreneurs don't do well in Australia in terms of getting visas. So it turned out I had to leave on a short notice period. Had to move back home with my
Mm.
family, because this was the closest I got back to going back to engineering. But I didn't give it a last Hail Mary. Wasn't
Yeah,
last. I would have kept going. Moved back in with my parents. Started posting on Twitter, and I was just following people and kind of talking about the same stuff that they talked about.
mm.
Started to get a following, got a client where I was doing just basically, I was doing DMs for him.
Right.
So I would just log into his Twitter, write DMs to his ideal customers to book him sales calls. And for every sales call I did, I got paid on, or sorry, for every sales call he booked and showed up, I got a 250 quid.
Right.
So then I started creating content about what I was doing in the DMs.
Yeah,
And then people started coming inbound to me saying, can you do some content for me? And then that's the real point, is like how I got to where I am now. So
yeah,
that was kind of the origin of the ghostwriting business, where I was doing DMs, and I was doing content that was attracting people inbound, which for me was important because I wasn't, again, a natural seller. I hadn't a lot of
yeah,
selling experience. Whereas with the people coming inbound to me through the content, they trusted me a lot already. So it was kind of
yeah,
easier to get them over the line.
yeah,
Um, and I suppose that's kind of how I got to where I am now, if that makes sense. And then there's been
yeah, yeah,
that was about 2.5, or about to over 2 years ago, when
yeah,
when I moved home, basically. So last 2 years has just been, obviously, moved from Twitter to LinkedIn, and just
yeah,
constantly refining that system and what that looks like. But it's basically the same, just
yeah.
hopefully better now.
What was the point that you kind of realised, right, this is actually working here?
Well, it's not. It's probably not like a binary 0 to 1 thing. It's just
Mm.
more like I kind of, and this is when I'm talking to a lot of people in the community now. They're like, you know, they're trying to get. They come to me and they're like, okay, I need to get a sale through this. I'm like,
Mm.
there's a lot more steps in between that,
Yeah,
and there's a lot more signals that you look for along the way. You know what I mean? So before you get a sale, you need to book a call. Before you book a call, you have to
mm.
have a conversation in the DMs. Before you have a conversation, you need to send them a message or post some content. Before you
Yeah,
do that, you have to know your strategy and all that type of stuff. So like, it was less about 0 to 1. I was like, this is going to work, but it was more like I just did so many things and put so much effort into it, and I was starting to see the signals coming through. And
yeah,
whenever I would see a signal, I would basically follow that signal. Like, for example, the first thing I did was DMs, and I was doing that, and that got me to like, it was about 3,000 US a month, obviously inconsistently because it was
yeah,
all commission based. But then I started posting about that, and that was getting me leads. And I was like, okay,
yeah,
there's something here, because the DM stuff was very manual on Twitter at the time. I had to do it all myself. I could have outsourced it, but it was a challenge. It's a challenge to outsource. Um, so it was very manual. Whereas I was getting, the same amount of leads, if not more, from just writing one thread a day at the time.
Yeah.
So that was the signal for me, as in like, okay, you're doing this, but maybe you want to add on this or think about adding this as well.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of kept following signals that would come through. You know, there was a period of time where I was doing the Twitter content, and then eventually one of the clients said, "Do you ever think about posting on LinkedIn, or can you share my stuff on LinkedIn as well?" So I just started sharing it, and in 1 month, he booked 32 calls through my
Right.
content, and 3 of them were Twitter, and 29 were from LinkedIn.
Right.
You know, so that's a signal, as in like, go to LinkedIn
Yeah.
was the signal I took from that. So it was just really more like I'd see something works even to the slightest, smallest degree, and look for the signal in that and keep following it. So that was my, because when people talk to me in the programs or in the communities, like really they're looking for some sort of validation to make sure that they're not going to fail. But if you're always just looking for signals and making sure you keep moving forward, even if it's very, very small steps all the time, you can fail. You know what I mean? So I think that's a roundabout way to answering the
Yeah.
question. It was more indirect than directly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, two questions on that. And do you think your impulsiveness kind of works better in that kind of environment? Because obviously you think you're right, that works. Let's go in on that. And another one,
Definitely.
kind of to give an idea around the volume of what you were doing. So, say, like for example, on the DMs, what sort of number were you sending every day just to get those results?
In terms of the impulsiveness thing, for sure, yeah.
Hmm.
I was actually again chatting to my friend about it on the weekend. So he's an accountant, and we were
Yeah.
talking about. I'm now in marketing. I know I was an engineer, but I wasn't. I was more the strategy engineer as opposed to
Yeah.
the process engineer. If that makes
Yeah.
sense. So he was saying like how he's very good at black and white things, as in like, you
Yeah.
know, do this and you deal with what's in front of you, whereas I'd be stronger at making projections and things like that. And I think you need a bit of you definitely need both, because like running an online business, the projections are good, but I need to actually do the work for the
Yeah.
clients every week,
Yeah.
because if I don't do that, then everything falls apart. But I think it was just more, I was able to, when I was really getting started out, I was able to lean into that impulsiveness and kind of use it to my advantage.
Yeah.
And then I've had to put in kind of the more systems and the more boring stuff as the foundation as we kind of went along, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, and then sorry, remind me what the second part of the question was.
Yeah, it was on about the DMs and what sort of volume you were doing in order to get those results.
Oh, I was sending in like, I think it was the hard part for that guy was just it was a list. So I think I was sending about 50 a day manually.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So to get to the 3,000, I had I think I had 2 or 3 clients going, and then I did
Right.
3,000 in 1 month. And it was mainly through the first one, because
Yeah.
he had a really good offer, and
Right.
I had a good list built. So I think I
Yeah.
built a list of about, I can't remember, something like 2,000 of his ideal customers, and I was just
Yeah.
messaging them every day. So it's about 50 a day 50 a day roughly per account, and then some days I try and do, you know, another 30 or whatever, as many as possible, really.
Yeah.
But it became very hard to manage, because on Twitter at the time there was no like good automation tools, and
Yeah.
yeah, it was just
Yeah.
not it was a great starter. Like, it was unreal to get me from zero to where it got me, but then yeah, I just couldn't take it any further in
Yeah.
a scalable way.
Do you still use that strategy now on things like LinkedIn then? But
Yeah. So I set up campaigns for all my clients. I do it automated now, though. So
yeah.
as I said, I do my stack, my fulfillment stack is basically LinkedIn posts,
Yeah.
newsletter, go-to-market strategy, comments, done for you comments for the
Yeah.
people, and I put an SDR in their inbox for an hour and a half a day as well.
Right.
So that's all came from kind of adding bits and bobs. But
Yeah.
I set up an outreach campaign, let it run for every month, and then just update it every month for sure. Because you can do content and everything, and that'll be brilliant. But there's no reason why you can't do content and outreach and have both of them
Yeah.
running. And you can have them feed it. I try and get them to feed into each other, whereas it's not
Yeah.
like the outreach supplements the content. Like I might say something like, I just released this. I just shared a post last week about interesting topic. Here you go. And
Yeah.
that a lot of the time that will start a conversation in a way that isn't kind of spammy. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, using it that way, I suppose if you're just doing the content or you're just doing one, it's just one arm. Your social profile or anything other. It's a complete ecosystem, so you've got to use all that to your advantage, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like, I just my theory with it is like I don't on the done for you. I don't have a lot of clients because I have very quite a wide scope, and I try and
Yeah.
maintain the service quality to be really high. And I don't want to build a big team with a big business and that sort of stuff. It's not really I just don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So I charge a lot and do a lot and get
Yeah.
a lot of results. That's kind of my theory behind it all, and make the service good so that the customers stay as long as possible, and they're
Yeah.
getting more customers than they're a lot more customers than they're paying for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and that theory is held up so far anyway.
Are most of your clients in the UK, US? Where are they based?
For the done for you clients are just US,
Yeah.
just US. Yeah, they
Yeah.
tend to be like 50 to 60 staff, and I work directly with the founder or the
Yeah.
CEO and president or whatever it is. Um, in the community, it's a mix. There's probably like 60% in America,
Yeah.
and then 40% maybe, then a split between like the UK, Australia, and a couple of European
Yeah.
countries.
But the community, the community, that's them doing it themselves. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
so I take the systems that I've done for the done for you
Yeah.
clients, and I have productized them, created effectively a course out of it,
Yeah.
and put that into the community, and then we do weekly calls as well.
Yeah.
Um, the problems that they have are different in the sense of, a lot of the stuff that, like when with the done for you clients, they have a good sales funnel in place. They have a validated offer. So really they just need the content plug-in. Whereas in the community, a lot of the people struggle is before and after that. So before, it's like getting their position get it properly set up so that it's
Yeah.
attractive. Um, and then also like what does the sales process look like to close uh, higher ticket clients
Yeah.
on a retainer basis, which is what I always try and get people to do because
Yeah.
that's what's worked so well for me. Yeah.
Why is it? Do you think it works much better in the States? Because obviously the process is the same. It's not like people in the UK don't use LinkedIn. It's huge in the UK. It's huge all over Europe. But it's just like services like yours. It seems like people in the States are more open to that as a service to utilize. Really, why do you think that is, and why do you think it works?
This is obviously a hunch. I don't have a huge, but based on personal experience, I think it's just more to do with as you say, they're more open to spending money
Mm.
to grow the business,
Yeah,
and they can see the value in it more. Like Americans are just a lot more consumerist than
yeah,
Europeans in general. So I
yeah,
think that kind of plays into it. I have worked with some UK based people in the past. They're great to work with. It's just
yeah,
there's less people who are willing to spend that money in the UK.
yeah,
Just whether it's population size or business, the obviously the economy is, or sorry, the amount of businesses is just a lot less.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, I felt they're just it's probably a mindset thing, but also like just a
Yeah.
volume thing as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I've struggled to try and work it out because it's definitely the demographic in the US. Dis, despite the age, old or young people are open to that sort of idea. Whereas in the UK, especially the older generation, not so much the younger, but especially the older, they're just cut off not just from things like ghostwriting or copywriting, things like that, but the whole digital marketing overall. I think.
Mm, yeah, as I say, it's my own experience, but I just seen that they can see the value in it
Yeah, yeah,
more openly. I think they're more open to advertising. They're
yeah,
more open to. probably trying to make big money than
Yeah.
maybe someone in the UK is. So they're looking for ways to do that, I feel,
Yeah.
in general. So yeah, that's what I've seen anyway. But
Yeah.
may not. It's obviously not a blanket statement. There's obviously a lot of people in the UK
Oh
who
yeah.
have ghostwriters that are open to
Yeah.
doing it. I just play to the market that I know that there's big demand in.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
easier for me.
Yeah. What have you find using the AI aspect then in your marketing and what you because you talk a lot about Chat GPT and stuff like that. So tell us how you utilize it, and then we'll discuss like where it's going from there.
I see it as basically like an accelerant that makes, say, me or my team more
Yeah.
productive. Like I have a team of two writers, two writers and a VA,
Yeah.
for the done for you side of things, and we're able to do the work of 10 people,
Yeah.
because compared to say two and a half, 3 years ago before GPT-3 came online. Um, just because you just get a lot more done. I think a lot of people get caught up in, they just rely on it too much. You see a lot of people
Yeah.
just saying, "Oh, give
Mm.
me a post about blah blah blah," and then
Yeah.
almost like a copy and paste. So I try and steer away from that. And whenever anyone's starting to use it, I'm very cognizant of saying you need to add your own personality in on top of it, because it'll be a net negative of using it if you don't do that, because people
Yeah.
will smell the chat GPT coming from it. You know what I mean? Then
Yeah.
I can see it anyway, and if I can see it, others can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so like I always have, I've like obviously built prompts and things over time. I actually use Anthropic's Claude model instead of ChatGPT to create drafts,
Right.
because the copy is a lot better. Just as there's less editing required on the output.
Right.
Um, so I'd use that, and then I'd always make a point of, editing and adding specifics and adding insights, because that's the thing with content is like it's not just about getting the content out every day. What turns content into customers is the nuance that you can convey in your posts. So it's
Mm.
like it's not just about the 8 steps how to get customers through LinkedIn. It's about how step 5 was an unexpected thing, and how I'm able to demonstrate that I've done it a lot, and what happens when you do it, and the little small details that you're not going to find on Google, or you're not going to find in
Yeah.
ChatGPT. It's
Yeah.
injecting those bits in. That's really where the value comes from in terms of like building trust. If the goal is to write content so that you can grow your business, or get customers, or just even attract followers or get a new job, you need to inject that nuance into it and the insight to show that you've done it and you've been there, and you're not
Yeah.
just using Claude to pump out whatever,
Yeah.
Um, so I'd look at it as in like you have to do the first 10%, which is the strategy, and then the prompt will do the next probably 70 or 80%, and then you need to go in and add the last bit, which is
Yeah.
the most valuable bit. That's how I'd always tell people to do. But again, the main thing that I see people get caught up on is like, "Oh, this is great," and I just start pumping out these posts, and you can do that, but you're not gonna. It's pointless. You're not gonna get
Yeah.
any results. So
Would
yeah,
would you put that down to people being lazy, or maybe being a bit too afraid to inject their personality into their content?
I think it's just more. I wouldn't think it's being lazy either. I just think like sometimes when I have a piece of writing in front of me, I find it hard to like. I'm almost better going from a blank and then writing what I think, rather than if something's in front of you, it can be very hard to completely change it into what
Yeah.
you think. Do you know what I mean? So it's like whenever you're singing a song, whenever you hear a song on the radio, it's impossible to think of another song because you're
Yeah.
listening to this one, and you're like that's in your head. Do you know what I mean? But you can't think of the other song because
Yeah.
it's on a different rhythm. So I feel like it's similar with the writing. It's like if I ask ChatGPT what are the 6 steps to do this, and it gives me the 6 steps, so it's very hard to see past that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you end up just with a slightly different version of what ChatGPT says, even if you don't think that it's accurate or valid
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
whatever. You might add bits on, but it's not really where you want to go with it. So a lot
Yeah.
of the prompts that I've done is like say if it was we're doing a 5 steps, I'd set up the prompt so that I can inject the 5 steps, like just an outline, like 4 words about what they are.
Right.
So you get an output that's closer to where you actually want it to be. at the end, and then you
Yeah.
can refine a bit of it after that.
Yeah. With the companies that you're speaking with, did you say around 50 to 60 in size?
Yeah, employees. Yeah.
Yeah. Are they so as some of them coming to you and saying, "Look, all right, you've got a lot of knowledge in AI. Is there any other way that we can incorporate AI into our business?"
Not me personally. No.
Yeah.
I think I think I'm working with and one of the people in the community is they do AI automation,
Right.
and I've worked with another couple of companies who do that as well. I feel like there's interest in terms of clicks,
Yeah.
but because it's still a novelty thing and it's not they're not seeing their peers using it, or they're not seeing widespread adoption of
Yeah.
various things. Obviously, using ChatGPT to help you write contracts and all that type of stuff, that is there. But in terms of embedded processes, I think the majority of, and definitely in small business, they don't really know what the value of it is yet, because they haven't seen, because there's still a learning time to actually using the thing and getting the most out of
Yeah.
it. You know what I mean? A lot of, like, I've used new software tools in the past before where I thought, like, my marketing funnels one now I'm using. I used to have 4 different softwares, and now I'm using this one. And at the start, I thought, wow, it's going to be incredible. It's going to do all my workflow in one thing, and it does that. But it took me a while to actually learn how to use it properly.
Yeah.
Uh, so that ramp on period there was a couple of months, before I could actually get the value out of it. And I feel like it's similar with AI, where no one is an AI expert now, so everyone
Yeah.
has to learn it new. So you're going to have that ramp on period of people first using ChatGPT, experimenting with it. Then it's like thinking, how can we actually use it? Because it is a completely new, I think a lot of people think of it like Google, when really it's more like an assistant, is a better way to think about it,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
because you can use it to help, like, rather than just look for results or whatever, it's more like ask it questions and have some dialogue with it so that it can do the legwork for you. Um, but I think we're still in the novelty phase in a lot of smaller businesses anywhere, where they'd
Yeah.
have ChatGPT, they'd use it for menial tasks, but it hasn't been meaningfully adopted, I think, in many cases.
Yeah.
Because with the AI automation person, you know, the hardest bit of his business is actually positioning. You'd think that if you just say, we'll help you use AI to automate your business, that everyone would be like, yeah, 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 let's go for it.
Mm.
But see, what they're seeing when they see that is like, they've never experienced what automation actually feels like,
Yeah.
because they're just used to doing things their way. So um, for them, it's like, well, AI automation is not interesting. So we have to then position his thing so that it's like, AI automation will save you time, and when it saves you time, it'll free up your resources and employees to do higher ticket work. And because they'll be doing that, you'll be able to grow the business.
Yeah.
And then they'll be like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. I want that. I want the business growth.
Yeah.
And if the AI automation is the mechanism for that, then great. But yeah, it's definitely not like, they definitely don't know, like, this is the thing that's going to help me yet. Although
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
know there's definitely a huge novelty in it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because, like, obviously, yourself and many other people like us, we're very, very familiar with AI and ChatGPT, mainly because we're connected with a lot of people that use it. But me personally, I kind of forget that there's millions of other people out there that don't know about it, don't know what to do with it, and so it seems prominent to us because we are using it quite a bit. But other people, especially small businesses around the world, they've got no interest in it, I guess.
Yeah, well, if you haven't used it, you don't know what you're missing. Like, and
Yeah,
if everything's going
yeah,
okay, why rock the boat? You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because people are still, a lot of people in their jobs, they're like, yeah, I'm doing well here, job's going good, I'm getting my stuff done. Why do I need to bring in this completely revolutionizing thing? And there's also going to be an element of, if I bring this in, this is going to take my job stuff. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
Um, and I'd say there's a bit of like reluctance towards that as well in many cases, especially in like non-decision making roles or things
yeah,
like that. They're like, they don't want to be known as, they don't want to use it. It's like,
yeah.
this is the future. This is what will take my job in the future type stuff. So yeah, I'd say there's a bit of like under the surface stigma, I would say.
Yeah.
with that.
How long do you reckon it'll be till more and more businesses? Well, not more and more businesses. Let's say the majority of businesses kind of encompass that. Because me personally, I think we're a long way off from that.
I think encompass it to what degree would be the question. So like encompass it in terms of surface level use, where people would have ChatGPT, say, or
Yeah,
all the staff would have ChatGPT. I'd say that's like quite soon. Like, it depends on who's running the business, but I would suggest if they're younger, it's going to be
yeah,
towards the next couple of years, like really
yeah,
across the board. But then it's the deeper level, you know, AI actually running the show, and we're just adding into it, or as in kind of trying to steer it. That's probably a bit further away. I think
yeah,
the technology will move faster than, like, I don't think the technology will move faster than the adoption. And I feel there's a sweet spot where you want to get in early and be the one who's using it,
yeah,
because then you're going to be ahead, because it will be a period. It's not as if, again, similar to the how do I know if the business is going to work? It's a constant movement forward, as in, like,
yeah,
there's not going to be one day where it's like AI is the thing now. It's going to be like we're using AI more, and it's going to creep more and more into different things. So
mm,
as a result of that, there has to be, people aiding the adoption.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
that's where all the new jobs are going to come from. That's where all the transfer of information and wealth is going to come from, in terms of people putting themselves in that and just being open to it and kind of
Yeah.
riding it as it progresses.
Yeah, I mean, what I failed to realize, I was watching a couple of lecturers a few weeks ago. Anyway, I didn't realize, but the LLM model, it's quite new, really. In essence,
Mm.
there's loads of different models out there, and it got me thinking about, all right, this model's very big now because it works very well with language and so forth, and very other different applications. But do you know much about that? And do you have any thought of what other models might be occurring further down the line?
In terms of when did LLMs come online and stuff, it wouldn't be deep into my expertise, no.
Yeah,
But I do know that they've been, I think I remember I used GPT-2 in 2019,
right.
and it was so bad. It was like completely primitive. I couldn't even do a sentence. Um, I didn't even take it serious. It was so
Yeah,
bad. But um, I don't know. It's hard to know. It's really a funding thing, because it's a funding, and you maybe have seen about how OpenAI are trying to raise 7 trillion quid. They put up that came out last week. They want to raise 7 trillion quid to uh, to fund, I think it's new microchips, AI chips, and everything like that,
right.
which is basically to compete with Nvidia. I think the actual blocker to it isn't necessarily going to be the tech; it's going to be the hardware.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
in the sense of, these things need massive servers to
yeah,
be held on, so that they can effectively think themselves smarter.
yeah,
Um, but there that processing power that's needed is way out of bounds in terms of what's available now. So there's probably going
yeah,
to be we were basically, I feel like the technology is filling the space that was already created in terms of actual processing power, but that will come to a point where that'll run out, and that's going to limit the actual growth of the thing
yeah,
itself
yeah,
over time. You know what I mean? So although it'll be getting more intelligent and everything like that, it's still, like, it's not gonna, the whole Armageddon thing, I think, is a load of nonsense, because, like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
AI can't just decide to build itself a
Right.
robot and then take over. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
It doesn't have the physical capability to do that. No matter how much it can think, it still can't do. And
Yeah,
maybe that will change in the future. I'm not saying that it won't, but um, we're nowhere near that. Like, not even close.
yeah. I think a lot of the growth was just basically throw a lot of money at it, and I think when ChatGPT kind of came out, like say the second one, I remember a load of tools being around at that time that weren't anything about AI. It's just a load of people kind of throwing AI into the name. Oh, this is an AI tool. This is an AI tool, and I think that kind of spurred on everyone's excitement around it. But the GPT model itself, that was definitely just throw a lot of money at it. When did you see it as an applicable solution to what you're doing? What was the kind of crossover?
I think as soon as it came out, basically I was
Yeah,
using it, because at the most basic level, it's a text creator, you
yeah,
know, and that was what I was doing. So I was like,
yeah,
okay, I definitely need to get to know how to use this because otherwise, copywriting is the first job that's going to go
yeah,
realistically. So I want to be, but it's not going to be tomorrow, and it's not going to be next year. It's going to be a few years.
yeah,
So I kind of want to just get on it and start figuring it out. Like even now, I have GPT the app downloaded on my phone, and I try and blend it into my. I'm not going to say blend it into my everyday life because I don't use it that much, but like I'd ask it questions and stuff. Like if I'm
yeah,
walking down the street, I see something, I'd be like, why is this street named after? Why is the street called this? Tell me the history about it and stuff like that.
yeah,
So little bits. Or the last day, I took a photo of my fridge and was like, what can I make for dinner? Little bits and bobs like that.
yeah,
So I tried to use it as the copy to text generator like immediately once
mm,
GPT 3.5 came out, which I think was in November of the year before last. Um, but it'll have more and more better use cases over time. So I'm actively trying to stay on top of that because I know
yeah,
that things are going to change relatively like quickly in most industries. So I kind of want to be. It's a muscle thing. You need to know how to use it.
yeah,
So no one at the moment is like crazy good, like extremely proficient in AI.
mm,
So it's all about just learning and seeing, how you can use it to your advantage and be
yeah,
the person who's using it to your advantage rather than just sitting down and saying, "Oh, this thing's going to take my job," type stuff.
yeah, yeah. One final question then before we go. So, like, if you're a small business owner that's kind of watching this, or how can you start incorporating that into your business and making the most of it?
I just look at the things that the highest the lowest value tasks that you absolutely need to do that have the
Yeah,
highest time consumption. You know,
yeah,
um, and I would map out, what do you do in a typical week?
mm,
Map out what are the repeated tasks that you do every week, and I would just try and see if there's ways to use AI to speed those up, like writing emails. Um, just making anything sort of like strategy planning, meeting notes. There's lots of tools and everything that you can do. Like when I interview my clients, I just chat to them for half an hour.
mm,
I have the whole thing AI recorded, and I use those words, that transcript to create content from, and I can send that
yeah,
to my team, and it's all logged, and it doubles up as meeting minutes as well.
yeah,
Um, so there's whether it's ChatGPT at the most basic level, is it like see what your repetitive tasks are, see if or see if there's things that take your time, or if there's something you want to do research on. It's very good at research. Use it for that, and then there's other tools that can aid with other things as well. Like as I said, the
yeah,
Otter AI is the one I use for the recordings and things like that. So yeah, it's just looking at where your time blockers are and trying to implement that because you can get the work of 3 or 4 people out of yourself
yeah,
using it. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
yeah.
Colin, thank you so much. I appreciate that. If for anyone that's not on LinkedIn, how can they get in touch with you?
I suppose going to my. Oh, I'm not on LinkedIn. That's a good question. I don't. I would say send me an email. Send me an email. So my email is colin@growlancer.co if you want to ask any questions. I've only been focusing on one platform so far, so that's why I don't have a good answer to that question.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be just my email. Send me an email if there's any questions. Happy to help. Just leave like podcast in the title so I know where you're coming from,
Yeah.
and then yeah, happy to help anyone that I can.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Colin. I appreciate that.
Anyone. Thanks a million.
All right.
Cheers, Leroy.
Excellent.
Cheers.